I stood in the rain watching the movers carry elegant furniture into my sister Victoria's new mansion, a wedding gift from our parents. It was a $2.8 million house in the most prestigious neighborhood in Boston. Meanwhile, I lived in a small apartment above the bookstore where I worked, barely making ends meet. "Isn't it perfect for them?" my mother gushed, not noticing how soaked I'd gotten standing outside. "Victoria and William will be so happy here, and there's plenty of room for grandchildren." I forced a smile, thinking of the congratulations card I'd scraped together money to buy. "It's beautiful, Mom." Victoria emerged from the house, immaculate in designer clothes, her new engagement ring catching what little sunlight filtered through the clouds. "Eleanor, you finally made it. What do you think of our little starter home?" "Starter home?" As if a nearly $3 million mansion was just a stepping stone. "It's lovely," I said. "I managed the perfect wedding present." "Oh, don't be jealous, Ellie." Victoria laughed, using the nickname I'd always hated. "I'm sure you'll find someone special too. Maybe one of those nice boys at the bookstore." Our mother jumped in. "You know, the Richardson's son is still single. He's an accountant now. Very stable career." I bit my tongue. At 32, I had a master's degree in literature and was working on my first novel. But to them, I was just the family disappointment. The daughter who chose books over business, dreams over security. "I should go," I said quietly. "My shift starts soon, on a Saturday." Mom frowned. "But we're having a family dinner to celebrate Victoria's house." "Some of us have to work weekends, Mom." Victoria rolled her eyes. "Still so dramatic, Ellie. This is why you struggle, you know. Always choosing the hard way instead of accepting help. Help like the full ride to business school I turned down. Like the position at Dad's firm I'd refused. Like the arranged dates with suitable men I'd avoided. What they never understood was that their help always came with strings. Golden handcuffs, designed to shape me into their version of success. "The bookstore is short-staffed," I said, already turning to leave. "And I need the hours." "Well," Mom sighed. "At least take some leftovers home. I hate thinking of you eating alone in that tiny apartment." I didn't tell her that my tiny apartment was my sanctuary, a space filled with books, art, and peace. A place where I could write without judgment and dream without limits. The next morning, I stopped at Arthur's corner store for my usual coffee. Arthur, a grandfather figure who'd been running the shop for 40 years, greeted me with unusual excitement. "Eleanor, did you check your ticket?" I blinked, confused. Then I remembered the lottery ticket I'd bought 2 days ago. A silly impulse purchase with my last $5 when the jackpot had hit record numbers. "Not yet." I pulled the crumpled ticket from my wallet. "What were the winning numbers?" Arthur's eyes sparkled. "Check the news, sweetheart." I pulled out my phone, finding the lottery website. The numbers appeared on the screen: 7, 13, 24, 31, 42, 53. My hands started shaking. I looked at my ticket, then back at the screen. "Arthur." My voice was barely a whisper. "I think I won." He grinned. "I know you did, honey. I watched them draw your numbers live last night. All 6 matching numbers. You just won $97 million. The world seemed to tilt sideways. I grabbed the counter for support. "Sit down before you fall down." Arthur guided me to a chair. "Deep breaths. This is big news, but you need to be smart now. Don't tell anyone yet. Get a lawyer first. And for heaven's sake, sign that ticket." With trembling fingers, I signed the back of the ticket. Arthur locked it in his safe, made me drink some water, and called his daughter, a respected financial attorney. "Julia will meet you in an hour," he said. "She'll help you do this right." I nodded, still dazed. "Arthur, my family." He squeezed my shoulder. "We'll find out soon enough. But right now, this is your moment. Don't let anyone take it from you." As I waited for Julia, my phone buzzed. A text from Victoria. "Family brunch tomorrow to discuss wedding plans. Wear something nice for once, and try not to be late like always." I stared at the message, thinking of her mansion, her perfect life, our parents' endless praise. For 20 years, I'd been the family afterthought. The daughter they'd written off as impractical, unsuccessful, lost. Now I had 97 million reasons to prove them wrong. I texted back. Sorry, can't make it. I have something more important to do. For once, I wasn't lying. 3 weeks later, I sat in my new lawyer's office, signing the final papers to claim my winnings. Julia, Arthur's daughter, had been invaluable, helping me set up trusts, investment accounts, and ironclad privacy protections. Remember, she said, reviewing the documents. Once we submit these, your name becomes public record. Are you ready for that? I thought of the changes I'd already made. I'd quietly resigned from the bookstore, leaving my manager a generous check to help hire and train my replacement. I'd bought a beautiful but modest house in a quiet neighborhood, using a trust to keep my name off public records. And I'd started the groundwork for my own publishing company, determined to help other overlooked writers find their voices. I'm ready, I said firmly. The next morning, my face was splashed across every news outlet in Boston. Local writer wins $97 million lottery jackpot. Bookstore employee becomes multi-millionaire overnight. Eleanor Bennett claims record-breaking prize. My phone exploded with messages. Old classmates, distant relatives, forgotten acquaintances, all suddenly remembering my existence. But the messages I was waiting for came last. First, Victoria. Oh my God. Ellie, why didn't you tell us? Call me immediately. Then, Mom. Eleanor Elizabeth Bennett, how could you keep this from your family? We're coming over right now. Where are you living? Finally, Dad. Your mother is hysterical. Call us this instant. I turned off my phone and poured myself a cup of tea, settling into my new home office. Through the window, I could see the garden where I planned to create a reading nook. The morning sun painted everything in soft gold, making the moment feel almost magical. My doorbell rang. Through the security camera, another of Julia's suggestions, I saw them. My parents and Victoria, standing on my porch. Victoria was dressed like she was heading to a photo shoot, while my mother kept smoothing her designer dress nervously. I took a deep breath and opened the door. Eleanor, my mother burst out. We've been so worried. Why haven't you answered our calls? And how did you afford this house? The lottery money hasn't even been released yet. Hello, Mother. I cut her off calmly. Would you like to come in? They filed into my living room, taking in the tasteful furnishings and wall-to-wall bookshelves with barely concealed surprise. Well, Victoria said, running a finger along the shelf. I suppose now you can finally move to a better neighborhood. Maybe near my new house. There's a lovely little colonial for sale. Only $4 million. I'm happy here, I interrupted. But thank you for your concern, Ellie. Darling. My mother leaned forward, her voice dripping with honey. You have to understand our shock. This is life-changing money. You'll need guidance, proper financial advice. Your father knows several excellent wealth managers. I have a team of advisors, I said. And it's Eleanor, not Ellie. Don't be difficult, Victoria snapped. We're trying to help. God knows you've never been good with money. Like that time I loaned you $10,000 for your starter business, I asked quietly. The one you never paid back. Victoria's face flushed. That was different. What you needed was to take responsibility. I stood up, my voice steady. Something none of you have ever expected from her. Now, see here. My father finally spoke, his face reddening. We've always supported you both equally. I laughed. Actually laughed. Equally? You bought Victoria a mansion for her wedding. You paid for her business school, her first car, her perfect wedding. What did you give me for graduation? A lecture about practical career choices. Because we worried about you, my mother cried. Your choices were so impractical. We just wanted you to be like Victoria. I finished the perfect daughter. The sensible one, I said. Well, guess what? My impractical choices led me here. My job at the bookstore, the one you all look down on, is where I bought the winning ticket. And now you can finally have a real life, Victoria said, as if she was being generous. We can help you invest, get you into the right social circles. No. The room fell silent. What do you mean, no? My father demanded. I walked to my desk and pulled out 3 envelopes. Victoria, this is a cashier's check for $10,000, repaying the loan you've conveniently forgotten about. I handed her the first envelope. Mom, Dad, this is a check for $15,000. The total of every gift, every payment, Every contribution you've ever made to my life. I've kept careful records." They stared at the envelopes, speechless. "The third envelope," I continued, "contains documents showing I've already established my own publishing company, created a charitable foundation for literacy programs, and set up my investments with one of the top firms in the country. I didn't need your guidance then, and I certainly don't need it now." But we're family," my mother whispered. "Yes, we are. And family should love unconditionally. Support dreams, not squash them. Celebrate differences, not try to erase them." I walked to the door and opened it. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a meeting with my foundation board about funding new libraries in underserved communities." "You're making a mistake," my father said stiffly. "You need us." I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in years. "No, Dad, you need me. And that's the real reason you're here, isn't it?" Victoria stood up, her face a mask of fury. "You think you're better than us now because of some lucky numbers. No, Victoria, I always was. You just never saw it." As they left, my mother turned back, tears in her eyes. "Eleanor, please. We made a terrible mistake. We see that now. Can't we start over?" I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw for the first time how small she seemed, how all of them seemed trapped in their narrow view of success and worth. "Maybe someday," I said softly, "but not today." I closed the door on their protests, walking back to my office. On my desk sat the manuscript of my novel, a story about a girl finding her voice in a world that tried to silence her. It was time to write the next chapter. 6 months later, the launch party for Bennett Publishing House was everything I dreamed of. We transformed an old warehouse into a magical space filled with books, art, and possibility. Local authors whose works we'd signed mingled with literary agents and journalists, while kids from our literacy program proudly showed off their own stories in a special display area. Arthur stood beside me, beaming like a proud father. "Look at what you've built, Eleanor, and not a penny wasted on showing off." He was right. While I could have easily bought a gleaming downtown office tower, I had chosen to renovate this historic building instead, creating a space that felt like home to writers and readers alike. The millions I'd won had been carefully invested in education programs, in supporting new authors, in building something meaningful. My phone buzzed, a text from Victoria. "Saw your company in the business journal. Must be nice having everything handed to you. By the way, William lost his job. We could use some family support right now." I deleted the message without responding. Over the past months, they'd tried everything. Guilt, manipulation, fake kindness, and finally outright demands. Victoria's starter mansion was apparently too small now. Mom and Dad's country club membership needed renewal. William's failed investments needed covering. I'd ignored them all. Miss Bennett. A young girl tugged at my sleeve. She was one of our literacy program students, clutching a notebook. "Will you read my story?" "Of course, Mia." I led her to a quiet corner, sitting down at her level. "What's it about?" "A girl who finds a magic pen," she said shyly. "Everything she writes comes true, but she has to figure out what's really important to write about." I smiled, thinking how wisdom sometimes comes from the most unexpected places. "Eleanor." I looked up. My mother stood there looking uncomfortable in the casual atmosphere. She'd lost some of her polished perfection. The past months had been hard on them. I knew Dad's firm had lost several major clients. Victoria's perfect marriage was showing cracks, and their social circle had begun to shrink as their resources dwindled. "Mom, this is a private event. I know. I had to talk to you." She glanced at Mia. I turned to the child. "Mia, why don't you show your story to Miss Evelyn? She's our children's book editor." After Mia scampered off, I faced my mother. "Well, your father's company is failing," she said bluntly. "Victoria's house is being foreclosed. Everything's falling apart, and you're here playing with children's stories." I stood up, anger flaring. "Playing? Look around, Mom. Really look. See those kids? They're learning to love reading, to believe in their own voices. See those authors? They're getting chances they never had before. I'm not playing. I'm building something real. But your family has never respected my choices." I cut in. "Even now, you're not here because you care about what I've built. You're here because you need money." She flinched. We're still your family, aren't we? I walked her over to our wall of success stories. Photos of children reading, authors signing their first contracts, community programs making real change. Family celebrates each other's victories. Family supports each other's dreams. When was the last time you asked about my novel, my goals, my happiness? I don't know exactly. I turned to face her. The lottery didn't change who I am, Mom. It just gave me the freedom to stop seeking approval I was never going to get. Tears filled her eyes. We were wrong. I see that now. But can't you forgive us? Forgiveness isn't the issue, I said gently. I forgave you months ago. That's why I'm not angry anymore. But forgiveness doesn't mean letting people keep hurting you. What do you want from us? Nothing. That's the point. I don't need anything from you anymore. And until you can want a relationship with me that isn't about money or status or your idea of success, we don't have anything to discuss. Before we find out how the rest of the family handles this reality check, if Eleanor's journey of self-worth and independence resonates with you, please consider subscribing and sharing this story. Your support helps me continue to share meaningful stories like this one. A commotion near the entrance caught my attention. Victoria had arrived with Dad, William, and little Tao. Really, I sighed. You all came to ambush me at my company's launch. We're desperate, Victoria cried, mascara running down her cheeks. William lost everything in that investment scheme. The bank is taking our house, and Daddy's company is dying. Please, Ellie, you have to help us. The room had gone quiet. Our guests tried to pretend they weren't watching the drama unfold. I looked at my family, really looked at them. Dad, gray and deflated without his usual power. Victoria, designer clothes now slightly worn, desperate for a bailout. Mom, torn between pride and need. No, I said firmly. No, Dad's voice cracked. I'll make you all a different offer instead. I pulled out my phone, pulling up some photos. This is Carter Financial Services. They're looking for experienced advisors with community connections. Dad, they've agreed to interview you for a senior position. No guarantees, but a fair shot. I swiped to the next photo. Victoria, the local arts center needs a fundraising coordinator. With your social skills and event planning experience, you'd be perfect. William, my friend's construction company is hiring project managers. Real work, fair pay. You want us to work for other people. Victoria looked horrified. I want you to earn your own way like I did. Build something real. Find out who you are without the fancy titles and borrowed money. And if we refuse, Dad asked stiffly, then you'll figure something else out. But you won't get a dime from me to maintain the lifestyle that made us all so unhappy. Mom stepped forward, surprising me. The Arts Center. They really think Victoria would be good at fundraising. Yes, because she is good at it when she's actually trying, not just playing the perfect daughter. Victoria wiped her eyes, smearing expensive mascara. I don't know how to be anything else. Yes, you do. I took her hand. The first time we'd touched in months. You're smart, capable, and determined. Use those qualities for something meaningful instead of just appearances. Dad cleared his throat. The position at Carter Financial. When's the interview? Tomorrow at 10. Don't wear your Rolex. Show them your experience, not your ego. One by one, they nodded. Not happy, not grateful, but perhaps thoughtful. As they left, Mom turned back. Your company, it's really amazing, Eleanor. I'm sorry we never saw. I know, I said softly. Maybe someday you'll see me too. After they were gone, Arthur appeared at my side. You okay, kid? I looked around at my publishing house, at the dreams being born, the stories being told, the lives being changed. You know what, Arthur? I really am. Mia came running back, waving her notebook. Miss Bennett! Miss Evelyn loved my story. She said, maybe someday it could be a real book. I knelt down beside her. Want to know a secret, Mia? Every real book starts with someone brave enough to tell their story. Like you. Like all of us. Later that night, I sat in my garden reading nook, working on my novel. My phone buzzed with a text from Victoria. I have an interview at the Arts Center tomorrow. Any advice? I smiled, typing back. Be yourself, your real self. The lottery hadn't just given me millions. It had given me the chance to show my family and myself what real wealth looked like. Not the money in my bank account, but the courage to finally be exactly who I was meant to be. And that was worth more than any number could measure. While I was sitting there controlling $750 million in investment capital, "That's correct," she laughed suddenly, a sound that mixed embarrassment with genuine admiration. "No wonder you just said good advice and didn't argue. There didn't seem to be much point in arguing. How long have you had this kind of money?" "The portfolio reached $100 million about 3 years ago. It's grown considerably since then. And you never mentioned it because..." I considered the question that had been implicit in every family gathering for 7 years. Because every time I've tried to discuss my work, someone has explained that what I do isn't real business. It seemed easier to let everyone assume I was struggling with internet consulting than to prove I wasn't. Aunt Victoria shook her head slowly. "We've been giving career advice to someone who's more successful than all of us combined. Success takes different forms, apparently." Walking to the parking garage, I reflected on the week that had transformed everything. 7 days ago, I had been the family disappointment who needed to stop playing pretend entrepreneur. Today, I was the strategic consultant offering to save a business from market forces I controlled. The offer was genuine. Harrington Hospitality was well run and deserved to survive. More importantly, helping them adapt to technology disruption would demonstrate something I'd never been able to explain in words. That real entrepreneurship wasn't about choosing between traditional business and digital innovation. It was about understanding how both could work together. My phone buzzed with a text from Elena. "New investment opportunities identified in sustainable hospitality platforms. Should we deploy the liquidity from this week's divestiture?" I smiled, typing back, "Let's discuss Monday. I might have a more interesting opportunity developing." Sometimes the best investment strategy was patience. Sometimes it was knowing when market disruption created opportunities for everyone willing to adapt, and sometimes it was simply proving that pretend entrepreneurs could build very real businesses. "Thank you for coming," I said. "Didn't feel like I had much choice." "You always have a choice. But I'm glad you're here." We spent 3 hours going through his business plan line by line. Marcus, who'd built his career evaluating small business loans, was surprisingly gentle in his criticism. My analysts contributed market data Julian hadn't seen. I focused on the big picture, what was possible versus what was probable. By the end, Julian's original plan had been completely restructured. Instead of a $350,000 loan to open a full roasting facility immediately, we proposed a $75,000 loan to start with a co-roasting arrangement. He'd use someone else's facility, learn the business, build a customer base, and prove the concept. Once he hit specific revenue milestones, we'd consider expanding to his own facility. "This feels small," Julian said. "It is small. That's the point. You learn on someone else's equipment. You build expertise. You make mistakes when the stakes are low. It could take 2 years to get to where I wanted to be in 6 months. Or it could take 6 months if you're really good at this. But you'll get there with money in the bank, instead of drowning in debt." He looked at the revised projections. "Dad's house isn't collateral in this version. Dad's house never should have been collateral. If you can't get a business loan without risking your parents' retirement, you're not ready for that business loan." "That's harsh." "It's honest." He nodded slowly. "I'll do it this way." "You're sure?" "Yeah, actually, looking at these numbers, your version makes more sense. I was trying to do everything at once because I was afraid if I didn't move fast I'd lose momentum. But you're right. I'd probably just lose money." Marcus slid the new loan documents across the table. "This is pending board approval, but given Miss Chen's position, that's a formality." Julian looked at me. "You're approving this on the condition that you work with our small business advisory team. Monthly check-ins, quarterly reviews. We want you to succeed, but we also want to make sure you're on track." "That's fair." He signed the documents. Afterward, as Marcus and the analysts packed up, Julian hung back. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Of course. Why did you do this, after how I treated you? You could have just denied the loan and been done with me. Because you're my brother. And because I remember what it's like to have a dream that everyone thinks is stupid." "Your dreams weren't stupid. You bought banks." "I bought banks after years of people telling me I was wasting my time. that I should get a real job, that my ideas were too ambitious. We said that to you. You did. And I almost believed you. But I decided to do it anyway. And now you're worth $180 million. Now I'm running businesses I believe in. The money is just a side effect. He smiled. You sound like one of those motivational speakers. Sorry. No, it's good. He paused. Can I tell you something? Always. I always felt like I was competing with you. Even when I thought you were failing, there was something about the way you just did things quietly, without drama. It made me feel like I had to be louder, bigger, more impressive, just to be noticed. Julian, you never needed to compete with me. I know that now. But for years, I was the successful one, the impressive one, and you were. I don't know what I thought you were, but I needed you to be less than me so I could feel like more. That's honest. I'm trying to be better about honesty. We walked out together in the parking lot. Julian stopped beside his car. One more thing, he said. At the next family dinner, can we not tell everyone about this? About you helping me restructure the business? Why not? Because I want to do this on my own. Prove I can make it work without my rich sister bailing me out. I'm not bailing you out. I'm offering you a fair loan at market rates with reasonable terms. Still, I want to succeed or fail on my own merit. I understood. As far as anyone knows, you got a smaller loan from Sovereign First based on your revised business plan. Which is true, he smiled. Thanks, sis. Good luck with the roasting. I'll need it. The family dinner the following Sunday was different. Julian announced he'd gotten loan approval from Sovereign First for a smaller amount with a different approach, but approval nonetheless. Everyone celebrated. Dad looked relieved that his house wasn't collateral. Mom was happy Julian had support. Claire asked intelligent questions about the co-roasting model. And I sat in my usual corner, drinking wine, listening to my family talk about their lives. Except this time, when Julian described his business plan, he'd glance at me occasionally. A small look, just checking that he was explaining it correctly, getting the details right. After dinner, Mom pulled me aside in the kitchen. I want to apologize, she said. For what? For not seeing you. For all these years, I thought you were struggling. I worried about you constantly. Your small apartment, your uncertain career, your quiet life. And the whole time, you were building an empire? It's not an empire, Mom. It's just a business. It's a $340 million business. Fair point. She hugged me. I'm proud of you. I should have said that years ago. You're saying it now. That counts. Are you happy? Truly happy. I thought about it. My portfolio of banks and credit unions. My team of analysts and advisors. My quiet condo with the city view. My life built exactly how I wanted it, without drama or spectacle. Yeah, Mom, I'm happy. Good. That's all I ever wanted for you. 6 months later, Julian's coffee roasting operation was thriving. He'd built a loyal customer base, developed relationships with local cafes, and was on track to hit his revenue milestones ahead of schedule. At a family barbecue, he pulled me aside. I'm ready, he said. For what? My own facility. I hit the targets you set. Revenue, profit margins, customer retention. I'm ready to expand. That's fantastic. I wanted to ask. Can we meet about a larger loan? Of course. And Elena, this time I'm coming with realistic numbers. Good. That'll make the approval process much easier. He laughed. I've learned a lot in 6 months. About coffee roasting, about business, about patience, about the difference between dreaming and planning. He paused. About humility. That's the big one. Yeah. Turns out being the loudest person in the room doesn't make you the smartest. No. But being willing to learn does. We met the following week at the bank. His new business plan was solid. Realistic projections, comprehensive market analysis, staged expansion with clear milestones. Marcus approved the larger loan that afternoon. As Julian was leaving, he turned back at the door. You know what's funny? What? For years, I thought I was the successful sibling, the one with the impressive career and big plans. And you were just there. Quiet. Unremarkable. And now I realize you were always successful. I was just too loud to hear it. After he left, I stood at my office window looking out at the city, at the neighborhoods where my banks operated, at the businesses we funded, at the lives we helped build. I thought about that Christmas dinner, when Julian mocked my small business dreams, when Dad told me to stick to my day job, when everyone assumed I was the unsuccessful one, and I thought about how satisfying it had been when Julian's phone buzzed with that email requiring the bank owner's approval. Not because I got to deny him, not because I proved him wrong, but because finally, they saw me as I actually was. Not Elena, the uncertain consultant, not Elena, the quiet dreamer, but Elena, the woman who built a banking empire while everyone else was too busy talking to notice. And in the end, that was worth more than any dramatic revelation or public vindication. It was worth watching my brother succeed, watching him grow, watching him learn that success isn't about being the loudest or most impressive. It's about doing the work quietly, consistently, whether anyone's watching or not. That's what I'd been doing for 8 years, and I'd keep doing it for 8 more, not because I needed to prove anything to anyone, but because I'd learned something my family never understood until it was too late to ignore. The quietest person in the room is often building something so significant that words would only get in the way.